Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Stronghold podcast. We have a very special guest on the podcast today. This is three-time ADCC gold medalist and the current absolute champion of ADCC, Yuri Simões, on the fucking Stronghold podcast. What's up, dude?
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know that this was going to be like a huge guest to talk to. I mean, you're the current fucking champ, dude. It's
That's
awesome
right.
that you're in Singapore. I was just telling you right before we started the podcast that, like, you know, the Singapore jiu-jitsu community is pretty small, especially like we all compete with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So multiple competitions, you know how the competition scene is. You just start to see the same people over and over again and open mats, and then you build the scene, right? And then, you know, when you're going to come here, like the current absolute champion is going to come to Singapore. Everybody heard about it. So today, if you don't mind, I'll pester you with a bunch of questions about your training, about what it was like to win ADCC, all of that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, man, please do. I'm here for that. Just keep the questions coming. I'll answer.
Awesome. And if you want to train with Yuri, he's at Pineapple MMA, which is about a 5-minute walk from my house.
Yes.
So this is a very convenient trip for you to make.
Yep. I literally walked here, so yeah, it's very close.
Nice, man. So first of all, we'll start off with, what do you think about Singapore, man? We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I think you said you've been here for about 4 months. Like, what do you think about it?
four and a half months. Man, I like it, Singapore. You know, I was here 3 times before, 2 times for one championship, and 1 time way back in the day, like I think in 2013 for a seminar. And, you know, now I got to see a lot more, you know, from Singapore. All the other times I was here was like quick visits. You know, when I came for one, I didn't get to see much. I was obviously focused on my fights. But I like it, man. It's very different in the U.S. I was living in the U.S. for 11 years. And like I was telling you, especially like the driving factor, like over there, you need a car to go everywhere. And then you just kind of get used to riding the train, using the public transportation. I think that's the biggest difference. And then I don't have any problem like the food or anything. Like I can eat. I have like a shark stomach. I can eat anything. So
That's the real question if you're talking to somebody about Singapore. What do you think of the food?
yeah, I actually like the food here. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of like Chinese food, Indian food, and then Malay food, right? Like I like all of that both. So
Did you lose weight when you moved here? Because I noticed that as soon as I moved here and like got off the sort of American diet, I still ate kind of clean. But once I moved to Singapore, I just instantly dropped like 5 kilos.
I don't think I lost that much weight.
You're looking pretty thick, bro.
Yeah.
You're looking pretty fucking jacked. I'm just going to be honest with you right now. You walked in and I was like, oh, fuck, yeah. I see why you're the absolute champ. God damn, you built like a silverback, dude.
I'm a little bit chunky now, to be honest. But I've been eating more than I should.
So Singapore has not taken the weight off you, let's say. Maybe
No,
not
at all.
All right, dude. Well, let's get into a little bit of the training talk, if you're cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my first question would be, like, as a coach, like, how do you structure your training sessions? I mean, you've obviously been incredibly successful. You're one of the most accomplished ADCC no-gi grapplers ever. 3-division champion, 3 different weight classes, current absolute champion. I mean, what do you prioritize your training? Like, how do you set your training camps up? Like, do you kind of outline what you're going to do? Do you have a coach, kind of mastermind, who does it for you? Or is it a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. And when you're talking about training, you're referring specifically to ADCC or just in general?
I guess we'll take a general approach. Yeah,
well,
like
because it changed a lot, you know, like my training for an average tournament is not like how I train for ADCC, I think.
Well, then let's go with ADCC, actually.
Yeah, like, because you got to take it to the next level ADCC because the matches are way longer than, you know, the average tournament match time. And then also you have, like, the best grapplers in the world. So I feel like that's one of the things that helped me win ADCC is like I took my camps to the next level. Like it's always very extreme. And, you know, like the only time I didn't win ADCC was my 3rd ADCC run. And it's because I started way too early training on that pace. So I feel like,
early.
Yeah, so I started training like 5-6 months before that tournament on the pace that I usually train. You know, every time I win ADCC, I train on like a very hard pace. But I think it was too early. So when it was like July, my body was falling apart. I almost tear my biceps and all
that. So you overtrained?
I think like I overtrained because I started too early. So like on the 3 months mark, that's when I should be competing. That's what I found out, especially on the last camp. I was like, now I'm going to do 3 months. I'm going to start exactly 3 months before 12 weeks. And it works perfectly like that. You know, every time I won, that's how I did. 12 weeks, and it's very very intense training. You know, like by Tuesday or Wednesday, like it hurts to get out of bed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but then you gotta like be committed to it because you know like your opponent's a trainee, so you gotta go and you gotta do it no matter what. But I feel like on the last 2 weeks of training, my body's feeling like amazing, but it's also like a glass.
Yeah.
You know, you have to start tapering it off and stuff. And my training consists of like a lot of wrestling, obviously a lot of grappling, jiu-jitsu, and then very intense conditioning training. The last camp that I did for ADCC, I had Coach Aiton, helping me with my conditioning. He's an amazing coach. He was in the Olympics for the wrestling national team, U.S. wrestling national team. He was, I think, Daniel Cormier's conditioning coach at some point as well. Trained with the judo national team, I think, for quite some time. So super experienced coach. He helped me a lot. He was very creative with his training, and I think he was able to replicate like the intensity of the tournament, you know, and mixing it up all these different like.
What did he have you doing? Like, what kind of shit were you doing?
So a lot of it was circuit training. I do weights throughout the year, you know, just for injury prevention. I mix it between hypertrophy, strength, and a little bit isometric on my own. And I do some mobility stuff, but with him, it was mostly like circuit training, focusing on obviously stamina, explosiveness, you know,
muscular endurance.
Yeah, all of that stuff, you know, like more focus for performance, you know. So we would do like maybe 5 exercises combined, and then do that like 3 sets, but no stop, just going. And then after that was done, then I would get a little rest. I would have a little active rest, jumping rope or like, you know, like some cardio, like air bike. And then I would get like maybe a 2 minutes rest and then go to another round of like 5 exercises and another round. And like, as we were like advancing, like maybe like on the week 4 or 5, then it would get longer, we'd get more rounds. So at some point it was like an hour and 45 minutes of conditioning.
Whoa.
And that was after like, you know, because I split my conditioning between my conditioning and my training 6 hours, minimum 6 hours. You know, I feel like a lot of people, they go from practice way too soon to conditioning. They're not able to be productive, you know?
Yeah, they're not recovering in between.
Yeah, it becomes counterproductive. You're at risk of injury, you know, like, especially like the camp for ADCC was in summer in California, so I was sweating so much, man.
Yeah.
I had to force myself to be drinking water all the time. So I would separate my training like 6 hours apart from each other, you know, like, so
Morning and evening, something like that.
yeah, so I would go. So competition class would start 1 p.m. at Caio Terra Academy. That's my coach, Caio Terra. And everybody that was, you know, competing on the tournaments, you know, there was Mason Fowler as well, my teammate. He was doing ADCC. So everybody would come at 1 p.m. to do the, you know, the training. And I would already go like 12 o'clock, you know, 4 times a week to train with my coach, Kyle, you know, from AKA. He's a very good wrestler. And I would do 1 hour wrestling. And then by the time everybody was there, I was already drenched, sweat from wrestling, just 1 hour wrestling with him. You know, so Kyle Driscoll, by the way, that's his name. And we would work on like all sort of drills, you know, like specific situations, especially like more the wrestling for like ADCC rules, you know. So I would do another 2 hours of training. So that was 3 hours in a row. 1 hour of rest and 2 hours of comp class. And then I would be so tired. I would go eat, maybe get like a 40 minutes, 1 hour nap, you know, try to hydrate because I knew the conditioning was coming and it was not going to be easy.
That is brutal.
Yeah, and every day.
I mean,
wrestling was like 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
But competition class for jiu-jitsu every day.
Jiu-jitsu every day, and then how much of the strength
and then conditioning like also like maybe like 4 times a week.
Every other day.
Yeah, every other day. Yeah.
Wow, that's a hell of a schedule, dude.
Yeah.
That's a hell. So, I mean, you're doing the thing that a lot of people in BJ don't want to do, which is like that ruthless conditioning.
Yeah.
And you can see it in your matches. I mean, your wrestling was on point. I mean, I think your wrestling skills are probably what won you the ADCC. I mean, your conditioning, you're fit, you were strong, explosive all the way to the end. I was just watching your match with Nick Margali. I mean, dude, that was a hell of a match. I mean,
yeah, that was a tough match.
Yeah, you could tell it was grueling. It looked like a grueling match. And so you really prioritize a lot of the conditioning. What does Kaio have you doing in terms of like the ratio of specific training to live rolling?
So, I'm very fortunate to train with Kyle. I think like that was a perfect fit for AD, especially for ADCC camps. Like I feel like big part of my success at ADCC was having Kyle on my corner and
he's
on my
technical.
camp.
He's so
very
technical,
but he also demands a lot from us. Like
he doesn't put up with
when
bullshit.
you're tired. Yeah, no. When you're tired, he keeps on. Like he's like, you gotta keep on going. You gotta keep on going. Like I think sometimes like maybe 2 or 3 times in the whole camp, he will select a random day and he will have us go like 45, 50 minutes non-stop with different people, fresh people coming fresh, jumping on us, and we have to just keep on switching non-stop for 45, 50 minutes.
Because that's live rolling or like specific?
Live rolling. Because in ADCC, your match can go up, in the final can go up to 40 minutes.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So you want to make sure that we're, if it comes down to that, we're ready, So he would go like and put like fresh black belts, like 5 minutes one guy, okay, you leave, other guy go right away, and like we're dying over there, it's like summer in California, we're sweating, I'm melting, and it's like just keeps getting harder because these guys are high level grapplers, they're coming fresh and they're giving their best there, and like we're already depleted 25, 30 minutes training, and you can't break, mentally you have to be strong, and I think like the training sessions with Kyle really like a big factor, like for me to be the champion at ADCC, like he really pushes us to the limit, and he makes us believe that we can do it while we practice. We're like, man, like it's not going to be harder. When we go to compete, it can be harder than it is here,
Yeah.
It can be the same, but it can be harder. Like,
yeah, nothing's harder than the training.
yeah.
Right?
So I think like having that that kind of training gives you the confidence when you step into compete. You're like, whatever happens, I'm ready. So that's when I go to ADCC, that's how I want to feel, because, like I said, the matches are very long. Best grapplers in the world, and that's the tournament that they will train the hardest for sure. So
yeah, definitely.
They will be in the best shape that they can be. So you got to make sure you're ready when you go there. You can't go there and be like, oh man, I wish I would have like trained a little bit harder, or I would have done a little bit more of G's or that. So that can't exist in your mind. You have to go there and you have to know 100% you've done your best.
So what do you think in terms of the how much specific training? This is always the question that I always have with other coaches and stuff. And of course, you coach a lot yourself, and of course, you've been coached. What do you think is the proper ratio for like how much time as a student you should spend doing specific training as part of your sparring versus how much you should do like live rolling?
So like
because I know like the Danaher guys, they do a lot of specific training.
Yeah, we do a lot.
They'll do like 80% specific training, right? And they'll do like maybe 20% rolling.
So at Kyle, we do like sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 1 hour of drilling, drilling,
hard drilling.
3 minutes, 3 minutes. Yeah, like you let us in that competition class, you let us drill whatever we want, and then we'll take like sometimes additional practice and where. The coach will be teaching a technique, and then we have to drill that technique and stuff like that. But for competition class, 3 minutes, one person drill whatever he wants, the other person drill 3 minutes, and you keep on going for 30 minutes to 1 hour. And then you go for maybe another 30 minutes of specific training.
Oh, that's great.
And another 30 minutes of rolling. So sometimes, depends. Maybe sometimes just 15, 20 minutes specific training and 40 minutes rolling, So usually it goes like that. And then in the end, sometimes we still do some sit-ups, some physical stuff, so it's like the full package,
Yeah, well, I think the craziest thing about you and Kaio being like, locked up together as trainer and student is that he's so technical, and when you get a fucking gorilla like you learning jiu-jitsu from a guy as technical as Kaio Terra, right? I mean, he's so technical, he's small, everything he does is deliberate.
Yep.
And then when you get a guy like you who's like the freak athlete who puts in the work with the specific or with the conditioning as well, then you got a monster, because you have the technique of somebody like him and then the physicality of somebody like you, especially that puts in all of that work with the strength and conditioning, because that is brutal too. Like adding that on top of everything is not fun.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people get it wrong. Like they see him as a small guy and they're like, what are you doing with a guy that's so small and stuff? A lot of people don't know, but Kyle spent a fair amount of time of his career competing absolute
Yeah,
divisions.
he did. He
and
won
he
a lot
beat
of
a lot.
absolutes.
He won a lot of the absolutes against some very good black belts. So he's a student of the art. You know, that's why he's so good. He's always studying matches and different opponents. Like say I'll compete at ADCC, he'll know everybody from my bracket and what I have to do to beat each guy. With my game, he'll tell me, okay, with this guy, you just gotta avoid these and these and these, and you gotta do
Because he knows your game as
he
good
knows
as
my
anybody,
game.
right?
He knows like I'm not just like a one dimension guy. He knows I can adapt and do certain things depending on my opponent. So he would tell me, oh, this guy, you're gonna choose this route. You're gonna avoid these and these, and you're gonna do more of these and that. With that guy, you're gonna do the total opposite. Now you have to maybe hand fight, wrestle a little bit more, and then when he goes to the ground, you just gotta be careful with these and that. So he's very objective. He doesn't make it so complicated. And then he's been on my corner for so long. So obviously I trust him. I can hear his voice.
How long have you guys been together?
I've been with Kyle for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 10 years. So, he's coached me through World Championship, Nogi Worlds, Pan Ams, European, ADCC, like you name it. He's been in my corner through all those tournaments, and I'm very grateful, and I feel very blessed to have someone like him in my corner. And like, he really helped me out. And he's like, and like I said, people don't know, like they just judge him by his size, but he is like a student of the art. He can pick up anybody from any weight, and he'll like study that guy, and he'll break down their game, and he'll give you like, this is what you got to do.
Oh, he's a legend. I mean, he's a jiu-jitsu legend. I don't think there's any debate in that at all.
No, for sure.
Because it's not, and it goes even beyond. I mean, his own personal accomplishments as a competitor, he's a legend. And then he's already produced so many world champion students.
Yes.
Which is a true legend, right? Then you're like, you've done it yourself, and then you've passed it on to the next generation. And he's still doing it, right? I mean,
he's still doing it. Yeah, and that's the thing too. He competed to in a high level, so that's another thing too. I think that's great. He knows what it takes to be there. He knows how hard you have to train because he's done that himself, so many times, so many years.
So what, if you don't mind, I'll switch gears a little bit because I'd love to like hear you kind of walk us through your last run at ADCC, which was just a crazy run. I mean, what was that like? What was the experience of going through the tournament, knowing the guys that you're going to compete, and then at the end, I'll have to ask you about the Gordon Ryan match because that is just going to be that is going to be the most hotly anticipated match over the next year and a half.
Yep.
So, you just won the absolute, so that means that you will have the super fight with Gordon presumably next year now?
Next year.
Next year. So what was it like, man? This is your third championship, your third ADCC gold medal in 3 different weight classes. Was the goal at some point like, I got to get the absolute? Is that why? What was the plan here? Because you went 3 different weight classes.
Yeah.
So what was the goal in your mind?
So this is going to be a funny story because actually I had no intent to fight absolute in this last edition.
Really?
Really. I was really focused on winning the 99 kilos. So the edition before that, 2019, I went for my third weight class, which was 99 plus. And I felt like I wanted the third weight class, a different title on a different division. And I think one of my mistakes was I was trying to get too heavy and I lost my characteristics as a grappler,
Well, you're trying to bulk, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like I was a bit sluggish from that, maybe a little slow. And I lost my explosiveness, all my main attributes as a grappler. And for this year, I was like, no, I'm just going to do 99 kilos because I think that's a perfect weight class. I wasn't completely not considering the absolute, but it wasn't on my mind as the main thing. I really wanted to win my weight class.
Had you even planned on entering it at all?
I mean, I was considering the possibility of doing that, but you never know. You never know if you're going to be hurt.
Yeah.
If you're going to be just too fatigued the next day or from your weight class. Like sometimes when you go to the final of your weight, absolute can be like 20 minutes after. So, like the first time that I won ADCC, it was something like that. I think 1 hour, maybe just 1 hour after I was done, I was competing the absolute already. It was like a long, campaign for my title. So you can be too fatigued to compete. So I was just not I was just not putting that as a priority in my mind. I was like, let's just go with the flow. My goal is to win the weight class. So I don't know if you watched the weight class. I had my first match against it was Luke something, the guy from Donahair.
Yeah,
Big
Griffin,
big
right?
tall guy. Yeah, Luke Griffin. Yes, very tough kid. Like he started very aggressive, and I was able to win. I think that like they should have gave me the score for the back take at some point there. I got his back, but they didn't give me. But anyway, I won the match. I went against Nicolas Miregali, the second match. I don't know if you watched that match, but
Yeah, I watched both
I
of
had
them.
a lot of people saying that they thought I won.
It was close, dude.
Yeah,
It was
and
so
I
close.
feel like from everything that happened on that match, I put him on his ass 2 times on the mat. I came close to the takedown 2 times. I was the one taking the center of the mat and of the mats, and he pulled guard. I was always looking. I was aggressive on top, so I really don't know.
Did he pull guard in the absolute too? He got a negative point for pulling guard
Yes,
in
twice.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what was the criteria to determine he won the match. But then after the match, I was very frustrated because man, I was like, I worked my ass off to be here. I 100% feel like I should have won that match, and I was like, and I was like frustrated because I know in an event like ADCC, you're gonna fight people like Miregali, which is very high level grapplers, and it's gonna be on the details, And then if the judges are gonna be biased, I was like, screw that. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna do ADCC. So I went out on that night. I was like, I'm never gonna do ADCC again. I told my parents
after your division.
Yes, I was like, I'm not gonna do ADCC anymore. Screw that. I was super upset, and I had a lot of people that were not from my team, people that I barely see coming to me and relevant people from grappling world telling me, no, you should have won 100%. That just made me more frustrated. I was like,
Yeah.
There's no coming back to that. Now it's only 2 years from now. And I don't even know if I want to go through all of that. And then you go in a tough match again. You lose in a detail. It's like, I don't know.
And then you see him in the finals of the absolute. What were you thinking, dude? Here he is again, right?
So I'll get there. So I went out and I was like, man, my coach is like, you have to fight tomorrow. My parents like, you have to do it. I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. I was in the strip in Vegas, 3 a.m. And people were taking photos with me. They're probably like the next day. They're like, oh,
that is hilarious.
They're like, what the hell is this guy doing competing? I saw him 3 a.m. at night,
That is so funny.
Man, I literally I've done everything that I shouldn't have done a day before a tournament besides drinking alcohol. Everything that you should not do, because I was really 100% sure I wasn't competing in the absolute.
Yeah.
So the next day, I wake up, my body is all destroyed. We had this guy from that trains in our team, Kiro. He was a former MMA fighter, super cool dude. He was working on my back because my back was destroyed. He's like, I'm getting a massage, and then Kyle calls me. He's like, two hours from now is the absolute. That's the deadline now. I have to put your name. Do it. You have to do it. You train hard. But bro, I was like, now I don't know if I should do it. I was up too late last night, and I was like, fuck that.
Did you tell him that?
Name. I was like, fuck that. Just put my name in the absolute. I'll fight absolute. That was literally 2 hours before the event started. The absolute started.
That is crazy.
So I go there. I'm in the bullpen, and I'm looking at everybody warming up, and a movie goes in my head. I'm like, man, this is my 4th ADCC. I was like, for sure, this is gonna be my last ADCC. I don't want to go through that training anymore. People train their whole life to win one title. At that point, I was already 2-time champion, and I was like, this is it. I called my dad. I was like, man, Dad, this is it. This is going to be my last time competing, It was an emotional moment for me, and I was like, I asked Nick, one guy from our team, a very good friend of mine. I was like, Nick, get me a black belt. And I'm gonna, if I lose a match, I'm gonna put the black belt on the mat, and I'm gonna retire.
Really, you were that set on it?
Yeah, I was like that. And he put a black belt, and he brought a black belt. I was like, put 3 stripes on it. God damn it!
Yeah, I gotta put a good belt down.
It's gotta be the right belt. Let's be clear about this.
Yeah, so I take the belt every match. You know, and I told Kyle, don't tell me who I'm fighting until like, don't tell me the whole brackets. Like, just tell me one guy, one at a time.
You didn't want to see who was doing other stuff on the other side of the
Yeah,
bracket.
I just
or
wanted to
anything.
focus on the next guy each
Yeah.
time, you know. So first one was Lachlan, you know, I beat him, brought the black belt. Second one, he's, you know, Mason came and he's like, you wanted the wrestling match, you're gonna have a wrestling match, you're gonna go with Nick Rod. I bring the black belt there, beat him, then Cyborg. Then I have the revenge against Miragali in the final, you know.
What was your mentality right before you were about to walk on the mat there?
I was like, I'm not losing for this guy, bro. I don't care what it takes. I am not losing this match. It was probably like the toughest match of my life.
It was
that final.
grueling. I was literally just watching it right before.
Yeah, it was very intense. I remember like looking at the clock, 3 minutes to end. I knew he was tired, but he's like one of those guys that like I can sense when I'm breaking my opponent and like when he's like slowing down, and I could never sense that from him. He was always keeping that same pace. And I was very well prepared, you know, and I was like, it's a good thing that I work with Ethan for this tournament because
conditioning,
especially for the last match, my conditioning was very important, you know. So I remember like looking, it was like 3 or 4 minutes to end. I was like, far out, man. I'm like drained. And I remember the condition. I was like, okay, all I have to do is just keep jumping, keep on trying to pass his guard, just like, you know, keep giving my best. Because they were very quick. If you watch the match with Kaina versus Craig, they gave him like 8 penalties.
They did. That was like the most I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was like Kaina was fighting himself, you know, like, you know, was fighting against himself. So I was like, man, I can't slow down. I have to keep on going.
The officials were giving out penalties way quicker this year than
Way
any
too
other
quick.
other ADCC I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was like, I can't stop, you know. I have to just keep on going. I'm just jumping, boom, boom, no stopping. And then, you know, I look, it was like 40 seconds, and then I look his face, and he was finally like, I was like, fuck, I'm ready to see absolute champion.
Yeah, nice.
So it was pretty surreal, man, you know, because it was the greatest title I've ever won. And even like,
and it was the best ADCC ever.
Yes.
The whole thing, the whole experience, the way it looks when it's like recorded, the whole experience, like it looked like a proper like show. Mm-hmm. You know, some of the old ones used to just look like jiu-jitsu competitions like you would see.
I think it was like 13,000 people there watching.
Like, there was like celebrities there and shit. Like the production quality looked amazing. You won it was like the most popular one ever. Yeah, and it was a rematch of a guy who beat you earlier in the division. I mean,
it was perfect.
That's as poetic as it gets, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the fact that I was so convinced that I wasn't gonna fight the absolute allowed me to sleep in a relaxed way. I wasn't like so tense.
It freed your mind up.
It helped me. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's interesting because you didn't have the stress of it in front of you. You could just like take a breath, get it out of your head for a minute, party that night, whatever. And then wake up the next day and you're just like, fuck it, let's, you know.
I agree. Yeah, man. It was surreal to win that title. And like even like if you rewind like 2 years before that or 3 years before that, on the previous ADCC, I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus fully. So a lot of people were counting me out. You know, like a lot of athletes, they retire from, you know,
like one of those things.
Yeah,
not 3 of them. Just one of them does them. Yeah,
exactly, 100%. So it was great to come back from such a big injury, you know. And, you know, to win the greatest title of my life, you know, it was like really like there's no words to describe it. And then after I was like, okay, I guess I'm not retiring anytime soon.
I mean, that's the pinnacle of our sport. I mean, if you're a no-gi grappler, the ADCC absolute title is 100% like you're like the heavyweight champion of professional grappling. I mean, you know.
And I think like there was a feeling in the end, you know, I told you about bringing my belt and being ready to retire from ADCC and stuff. And I feel like winning that, it was like God or the universe or whatever you call it, telling me you're not going to retire anytime soon. Like I was like, I still have a lot of wood to burn, you know.
How old are you now?
I'm 32.
32. Yeah, you're still good to go, bro.
Yeah.
You still got a couple more in you. Hey, come on, man.
I feel like it. Yeah.
38, then everything starts breaking. That's my experience.
Yep. So I got a couple years.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
So then what? I mean, there is of course the elephant in the room, right? It's tradition that whoever wins the absolute does the super fight for whoever won it the year before, and of course Gordon Ryan won it the last year, and you guys have had several matches together. I mean, I'm curious, would that be like the one. Like of course, you already won your absolute championship, but of course, beating Gordon Ryan has got to be.
Yeah.
That has got to be just what every person in the world who does the sport would like to do, right? You guys have had a few matches together. I mean, how do you approach this problem? Because you train with him, you've had really close matches with him. Like, I don't know, how do you approach him? Because he probably will be the biggest, obviously, if he's in the match, and you're a three-division champion. He's a three-division champion also, I believe, right?
Yes. I think he won, two different weight oh no, last year he became 3-division champion, absolute champion, and he won 1 super fight. So he's ahead.
But he
he's
has
one of the
3
few guys
gold
that's
medal.
ahead of me on the title.
He has 4. Is it?
He has 4 plus the super fight.
Plus the super fight.
So
right.
probably 5, yeah.
So you'll be in the next super fight. I mean that's going to be crazy. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, how high do you put this in your? Would you put that in your accomplishment list?
Man, I'm just very excited and motivated for that match. You know, you said this ADCC was the biggest one. The next one will be twice as big. So that on its own is super like motivating for me as a grappler to be in that position. You know, like I think for anybody that does jiu-jitsu and you know, especially in a professional level, people want to be at ADCC. So
yeah.
I have
especially the super fight. I mean,
yes, exactly. So I'm very grateful to have been through several ADCCs, to have won, you know, the absolute, the 2 other weight class, and now to be in a position where I can fight in a super fight and I can fight against the guy that is doing the best right now. So I think Gordon has proven himself to be the number 1 guy right now. So beating him, you know, like I have an extreme amount of motivation, many factors that motivate me to wanted to beat him. I fought him 4 times. If you look for the results, I didn't win. But if you look at my last match with him, I personally think I should have won by 1 advantage. It was very close. He got 1 advantage for him in the beginning.
He won only by advantage.
He won by 1 advantage, which I personally don't think it was an advantage. And I think I should have scored an advantage from getting on north-south, chest to chest in the end. Because the rules say on IBJJF, if you pass the line of the legs for less than 3 seconds, you get an advantage. It doesn't say if it's 1 millisecond. If it's that's what it says. So I think I should have won by 1 advantage. But regardless, it was a very close match. But I personally think like on that match, I figured out the pace that I have to fight to beat him. You know, and I feel like if I can put my whole camp around, you know, that game plan. Obviously, he's a different grappler, but so am I from that last time we fought. And if I can put my camp around that mindset, around that game plan from the last match, you know, like I fought so many DCCs, and you know, I was telling you, train so hard and stuff, but you don't know who you're gonna fight against.
Yeah,
you have, you know, a handful of great grapplers, but you know, you could go with this guy or with that guy. So the difference now is I have a full camp to prepare for one opponent. And, you know, I am very motivated to beat that guy, you know, and to win that super fight. You know, there's so many factors, like the fact that it's going to be the biggest event ever, the fact that there's going to be the biggest prize I've ever fought for in grappling, you know, the fact that it's Gordon Ryan that I'm fighting against. So in my first ADCC super match. So there are so many, you know, things that I can look for to fight, you know, to step there and to get that win on that match. So I'm going to prepare extremely hard for that. I'm going to train very smart, and I'm going to make sure that I come more prepared than I've ever showed up to any tournament, you know. So Gordon is a guy with very few gaps on his game. He's very flawless when he fights. You know, there's not many things that you can see, oh, yeah, that's the way to beat him, like, you know, 100%, that's how you got to beat him. It's very... There's not many gaps on his game, right? So I have to make sure that I create those gaps myself, you know, and I have to be very prepared physically, technically, and I will be. You know, one thing about me is like when I go to fight something that really matters to me, I always show up 100% prepared, and you know, I can give my best, you know, easily on situations like that, and I'm ready for it, you know, like mentally I'm already ready for it, and I just need to start my camp and put all the work that I know I have to do. Just do the work I have to do, man. I know it's gonna suck every single day of preparation, but I'm gonna do it with a smile because it's gonna be the biggest victory of my life.
Yeah, I mean, you're already one of the greats of our sport. But if you beat Gordon Ryan in the ADCC super fight, you're in like a all-time great with as many medals as you've already won. That puts you into like all-time great type of conversation. Just because Gordon's been on such a streak lately. But man, that is going to be such a crazy fight. Does his shit talking annoy you? Do any of this?
No, I think his shit talking is actually, if you have an open mind, if you look at the bigger pictures, he's done great things for the sport. He brought a lot of viewership to grappling, you know, like, and man, he's getting paid with his shit talk. So how can you judge that, you know? Like, I think maybe sometimes he goes too far on what he says and stuff, but he's never done that with me. So personally, I don't have anything to say. I have no hate towards him. I think, like, you know, like a lot of us grapplers, we have to, in a way, we have to be grateful for the attention he brought to the sport, you know. So to be in a fight against that kind of guy that brings that kind of attention, I think it's a great thing for me, you know.
Yeah, it's good.
That's how I look at it.
I like it too. A lot of people get annoyed by it, but I just like view it as entertainment only. Mm-hmm. You know, when he's trolling and just talking shit, I'm like, oh, this is just like WWE.
Yeah.
Right? It's just entertainment.
He at the stage where I think like everybody's going to be cheering for you because he's got himself to that stage as well where he's like Ric Flair, he's like Mayweather, that people now want to pay to see him lose.
Yeah, people
like that's
watch
it. So you're like, yeah,
see
great,
him
this is
lose.
fantastic. Like, make money.
In a way, it takes a lot of the pressure out, right? But me, man, knowing myself, I every time I go, I put a lot of pressure on myself, no matter the situation, you know. So there's definitely going to be pressure from my own self on me. So, but you're right, you know. Like, I think that he's in a position that a lot of people now want to see. Like, what if he goes there and he loses? You know, like, you know, that would look interesting, right? Like, I think people are paying for that, for their chance, you know, to see him like maybe getting his one loss in a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to be that guy.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I don't know Gordon Ryan personally, but I'm cheering for you, dude. Let's fucking go.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
fucking
you.
go, bro.
You're gonna
Let's
have so all of Brazil behind
Let's
you.
go.
Now all of Singapore. You know, you're doing well. You got two countries behind you
Yeah.
there. It's good. It's good.
That's what I'm
Singapore's
talking
definitely
about.
going to be behind you, bro. Singapore's definitely going to be behind you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the love.
I just think it's crazy that you're in Singapore, man. I mean, it's so fun to be like. I can't believe I live 5 minutes away from where you work. It's kind of wild, right?
Yep.
And you said so you're going to be in Bangkok for what's your like schedule coming up? Because you're probably doing some seminars and.
I just got done with a lot of seminars. I was in Australia for 4 weekends in a row. And then I went to the US. I did some seminar there. I had to do some paperwork stuff related to my green card there. And then I got back. I was also teaching in the Maldives. You know, I'm sponsored by the Hard Rock Maldives. Big shout out to the Red Mats Maldives. You know,
I didn't know there was a school in the Maldives.
yeah, it's the only
jiu-jitsu
hard
school.
rock in the world that they got a mat on. So, you know, there's a great friend of mine there, Toga. He's the one who, he's the head of the resort there, and he got me the sponsor. So, you know, every time that I have some free time and stuff, I go there, and then I teach there as well. You know, they have classes there every day. So, you know, I done that, and then now I think I'm just doing a seminar in Bangkok. I think it's in the last weekend of May. It's not confirmed yet, so there's no. I can't give it a date, but I think it's gonna be probably on the last weekend of May if it gets confirmed, and then hopefully I'll get a super match. I also cannot talk about it, but in a very big event, I'll get a super match in June, maybe July, maybe June against a very big name as well.
Tell me after the podcast,
Yeah.
bro.
Off it.
Tell me after the podcast.
And then Luke will tell everyone on the podcast next time he's drunk by mistake.
No, I will not. I am good at keeping secrets, Yuri. Don't listen to anything that this motherfucker's saying over here.
I'll get you to sign a contract.
So what's your plan then? Are you based in Singapore and you're just gonna pop around? You still gonna go over to LA and just do seminars, and this is gonna kind of be your hub?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I came here to Singapore. Now I feel like it's a transition in my life. Like, I still want to compete a lot. I still want to do MMA. I want to have all these like personal projects, as far as my athlete career goes, but I also want to start building a team. I want to start having, my athletes, my fighters, people that I train, and I go there as a coach, and I want to help these people succeed, And I feel like maybe Asia doesn't have that yet, doesn't have that team that is focused on, building champions, on taking it to the next level. So, I saw it as an opportunity. Like, I was in California for 11 years, and I was another world champion, another ADCC champion there, just one more guy there. And like here, if you look at the whole continent in Asia and Oceania, I don't think that there's a lot of people with micronations in grappling. I know, like,
No, there's so much potential. So much potential in Asia.
And I know, like, being a competitor and being a coach are two separate things, but I also, a lot of people don't know, but I taught at the headquarters of my team for like 8 years. I've been teaching for a long time. I do enjoy teaching. I see a lot of joy in, like, helping people out, whether it's like, like I'm saying, as helping a competitor to go there and win a big title, but also like someone that maybe just comes to the gym overweight, they just want to get in shape, or someone that suffers from bullying, who wants to learn how to defend himself. And then you see that person, getting in shape, or, getting his confidence up and changing his life. I think that's something, something to be said about that, and I think that's where I'm at in my life now. Like, I have the competitor Yuri side, where like I still have all these goals that I want to achieve. I don't feel the pressure like, oh, I have to prove something to somebody. I don't have that anymore. Like, for a long time I had that, but now I feel like I won, the greatest titles in the sport. So, and I did it over and over. So now it's more like a personal challenge. Like, now I want to win the super fight because I want to win the super fight. I want to be the one guy that beats Gordon Ryan. But that's all, like, there's no outside pressure from there. Just me demanding a lot from myself, how it always was. But I also have this side now, that I want to build a team. I want to build champions. And I want to be there with them and help them hopefully win their ADCC titles and their world titles as well.
Well, I think your presence here for no-gi in particular is going to be absolutely amazing, because Singapore's got a really good jiu-jitsu culture, but it's like 85% gi, right? Like, I don't know if you've been to Evolve or any of the other FAMA or any of the other big sort of BJJ gyms that have like the most probably students. It's very, very gi heavy. So we do a lot of no-gi at Stronghold at my gym, because I'm a no-gi. I mean, I'm an MMA fighter, right? That's my thing. But I still trained in the gi. I was like GF team for a while, and then now I'm with Nick. But I'd always done gi and no-gi, but I prefer no-gi. And then I know Major, he's one of my friends. He's a black belt here too, American guy. He does no-gi. And then Shinya does mostly no-gi. I think we're the only schools.
Mujig's a bit of a mix.
Mujig does both. He does gi and no-gi. So I think we're the only schools that like prioritize no-gi even half, right? Most of them, it's like 85% gi, and then maybe like they put one or two no-gi classes on the schedule a week or something like that. So having you here for the actual no-gi scene is just going to be amazing, because it seems to me that no-gi is just getting more and more and more and more and more popular over the years. 10 years ago in Singapore, it was all gi. There was like zero no-gi classes.
Yeah, I think I think maybe all around the world is still more gi heavy, but like I think no-gi is starting to take over, like with all these ADCC now. Like, you also see now two different crews, right? As in the competitor level. Like, before, the same guys that win worlds as the same guys that win ADCC. Now, it's two different groups. So I think like it's growing everywhere, in the world. Like, the no-gi is starting to take over, and I'm happy to be a part of that change in Singapore, like of that shift. I also do teach in the gi. I want to make that clear. I teach class in the gi every day. I love to train in the gi as well. I think like that's my first passion. I started training jiu-jitsu in the gi, and I won worlds in every belt level in the gi besides black belt. That I got third twice in the worlds, but a lot of people don't know that, because like I feel like my no-gi titles overshadow my gi titles. But I do teach in the gi, but lately I have not been training, maybe in the last 4 years, heavily in the gi,
So you teach in the gi, but then your personal training, you mostly do no-gi.
Mostly no-gi. I roll in the gi every here and there with my students.
Yeah.
But I prefer to focus my training on the nogi because all my next tournaments, my professional matches are in nogi. You know, like I said, I tend to I want to come back to MMA. So
Oh, you do want to come back to MMA?
yeah. I do.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully this year. Yeah.
Finish this thought, and then I want to go back to that thought because I'm MMA hardcore.
Yeah. So I think that's a little bit more relatable to MMA. Nogi is than
Yes.
gi, you know?
Now it's like there's the no-gi people and the MMA people, and they're kind of like flirting around over here, and like the combat people, the combat jiu-jitsu
Yeah, yeah.
people, and then there's like the hardcore gi specialist people that are like, you know, tying the
worm
gi,
guarding everyone
guard,
to death.
bowling you, and fucking all that stuff. Sometimes I see some of the gi guys, and I literally don't even think that we're doing the same sport.
Yeah, it's very different now.
I mean, they'll tie you fucking up and
Yeah,
upside
yeah,
down
yeah.
on your head, and I'm like, literally up, they're inverted constantly, pulling down your ass crack and tying your tying your gi. I'm looking at it; it's super effective. I've rolled with some of those guys, so trust me. I'm not saying that is not effective in the gi.
Just a
but
different sport.
It just
like you
looks
say.
so different. Like when you
Yeah.
watch ADCC, you're seeing like really strong fundamentals.
Yeah.
There's nothing fancy. There's nothing super flashy. It's like even the flashy stuff is traditional shit. Like when Cade armbarred Lachlan Giles.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
Lachlan's upside down, he flew into that, but it's still a super fundamental move, right?
Yeah.
Whereas then you look at some of the black belt world championship matches, and the grip fighting and the tie ups and all of this stuff. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's a totally different meta to what it was
100%.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think my last Worlds that I competed on was 2018, and man, it changed so much from 2018 to now. So in these like 4 or 5 years, so it's definitely taking a different route. Like it's going like that now, you know, and it's exciting. I think like especially I think like for the nogi part, I think like people would always just look at nogi and they automatically associate it with the gi because it was the same crew, like I said.
Yeah.
But now it's like the techniques are different, you know, the dynamic of the matches are different. You know, there are more rule sets around nogi as well. There are like EBI, there are all these other tournaments on the side, not just ADCC, but so I think that's good for the sport, you know. And I think gi is always gonna be gi. You know, people always gonna compete in the gi as well. So it's not like, oh, you know, it's just nogi is taking over, it's taking, you know, like all the attention. I think like nogi is getting more attention now, you know, but gi always had, you know, like a lot of attention. So it's just
Gi had
even
all
it
the
out.
attention
Yeah,
for-
just even it out in my eyes.
Nogi only started becoming popular like maybe 10 years ago or something.
Like
that.
the EBIs really
The EBIs
kicked it off.
took it to like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next level. Yeah, then people really started getting interested in it. It's fascinating how much jiu-jitsu's changed over the last like 15 or 20 years. I mean, it is so systematic now. Everything that you see, like the quality of the roll. I really think that like my blue belt, purple belts now would like probably destroy me as like a brown belt like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a normal thing. It evolves, right? So now it's probably like same thing if you compare you as a purple belt 10 years or however long ago you were a purple belt with someone that was a purple belt before you 10 years ago before you. It's always in a constant evolution. So
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be the case, you know.
And no gi has had a crazy evolution. Like it seems like the most recent revolution in the gi was like the worm guard stuff, the really sport specific lapel ties, and the gripping has just become so systematic now. Whether you're tying lapels around or bowling people or worm guard or whatever the case is, and then you see it a lot more in the no gi with like both the wrestling. Like the no-gi specific wrestling, and then the leg locking has just become so systematic now and so dangerous, and there's people that are so fucking good at it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I
did
agree.
Did you watch the one yesterday?
Yeah.
What was the fight before the Haggerty fight?
Oh yeah, there was the calf slicer, right?
Yeah,
That's what you were
yeah.
talking about?
But like people now know that that's coming. Where he had his leg up there, so people have worked on their flexibility because someone would attack to that 3 years ago because they wouldn't have been prepared for it and wouldn't have the flexibility to it. And now you're seeing people like wrenching people's legs over the head, and people are training so they've got flexibility not to tap to it. It's crazy.
They went from so there was the one Friday night Lumpini show was on yesterday.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so that's I judged like the last one in Singapore, the big one, like the one on Amazon Prime ones, and then I also go to Bangkok and I do the Lumpini shows. And last night there was a guy who one guy had him in a calf slicer and then he got reversed and ended up in that Sulive stretch. Do you know where like you have somebody's back and then you like knee barring them from over the top? And I was like, you almost never see that move,
and
right?
the guy didn't tap.
Didn't tap, and then
just had the flexibility to deal with it. You're like, that's crazy.
But they both look pretty nasty. But that's a weird submission. What's your weirdest like submission? Every like jiu-jitsu black belt has like one move that they do that's kind of weird that they're really good at.
Man,
Do you have like an unconventional
have to think a lot
setup
about it.
or move?
Man, I wish you had told me that before the podcast so I could start thinking about it because it would take me some time.
I'll give you mine and let's see if it spurs you any ideas. I really like the Von Flue choke. Do you know the Von Flue choke? It's like the half guard choke. It's like the head and arm choke from the half guard, for example. You can do it from the side control, where somebody like tries to get a guillotine on you, for example, and so their head is here, and you choke them with the shoulder pressure.
Who is it that's hit? It's not the Von Fluke's choke anymore, though.
OSP.
Yeah, I do.
Ovince St. Preux in the UFC, he hits it on a lot of people. It's like a super weird move. Only a few people do it, but like I found that a lot. I can do it from like the half guard, and I can do it from the side control. I don't even teach it. I don't know why. But it's super effective.
Yeah.
Like it's a strong choke. It's just a head and arm choke, right?
Yeah.
But I'll use it sometimes in the half guard to like, because you can feel the pressure, the choke start to come on, and it would just make people react really strongly and like push you away. And I'll use it to like.
Man, every
mount.
week, like I think in training, there's like at least 1 or 2 subs that I do it, and I'm like, man, that was a weird sub. It just like, make it work somehow. But I don't have a name for them or anything like that. It's just sometimes like because at my class I roll mainly with the ADCC rules, under ADCC rules, so you can do neck cranks and stuff. I tell them not to like literally crank someone's neck, just go very controlled on those more dangerous submissions. So like there's some weird stuff that like with neck cranks and like some stuff like that, and sometimes I put people on and I'm like, oh, that's new, like that's interesting.
You're just sitting there face cranking your white belts and they're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. But like, man, I've been training jiu-jitsu for, I don't know, like 25, 26 years. So I feel like nothing is really weird anymore to me. Like when it
you've
comes
seen it all.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I mean, not at all. Like, it would be arrogant for me to say that.
You've
but like,
seen a lot.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot. That's fair to say.
I've seen a lot, yeah, for sure.
So what's your favorite? I'm going to give you a couple rapid fires, and you can take as long as you want to answer them. Favorite submission, if you had to pick?
Gi or no gi?
No gi. I think I saw on your
Rear
profile.
naked choke.
That's your number one?
Yeah.
Nice. I see
Or either that or the katagatame choke. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Head and arm? Is that head and arm?
Yeah, head and arm. Yeah.
Okay, what favorite guard to play? No gi.
Reverse de la Hiva.
Reverse de la Hiva. Interesting.
Yeah. Like knee shoot, half guard, reverse de la Hiva, those two.
What about in the gi?
The same.
Same? Reverse de la
Yeah,
Hiva?
the same. I grew up training under Ricardo Vieira. He was the coach who gave me the black belt, and that's the guard that he plays a lot. Very
Reverse
light
de la
guy.
Hiva.
Yeah, so I feel like I learned that guard from him. So
How do you not get foot locked when you're playing reverse de la Hiva? This is my question because I've
when
been
you play
keeps
reverse,
happening to me.
I've been foot locked too many times trying to play reverse de la Hiva. I leave that foot
just
high
gotta-
up on the
yeah,
hip.
so you gotta-
bam, corkscrew toe hold or something.
You mean the steamer lock? Or?
Yeah, the steamer lock or like the
You
corkscrew
just gotta
toe
be
hold.
aware of it. I'd say, like, I can see someone going for it, like, and then I'll just change the position on my foot.
Do you play it high on the hip or do you play it more toward like the
Depends
quad?
if they're standing, I'll go higher on the hip. If they're on their knees, and I'll just sort of go like knee shield, more like a reverse de la Hiva, but with the knee shield. But I feel like if they're standing and your foot is on the outside, just gotta keep that foot next to the hip. You're not floating outside, so they can toe hold and stuff.
Yeah.
Just gotta be aware of it. I feel like like I can see someone going for it like before they go for it, and I'll just
You can sense it. You have the sense for it.
I mean, like you can see like they're turning, or they're like looking to get your foot, and if you can't just stop with your foot there, you just gotta be aware of it. I feel like.
What's your favorite guard pass? Or position to guard pass from, maybe. I don't know.
I like double leg control or body lock, either one. So body locking, and then just like a double leg, but where I use like a sort of like a tripod mechanic, like I use my shoulder and lean my head on them. That's like one of my favorite passes. They call crash pass. So I like to use that a lot. You see me doing that a lot in my matches.
Yeah, that's a great pass. I always find it hard on any of those passes though to actually get to the head, get to the crossface.
Yeah, because
people frame the shit out of you.
You shouldn't get to the head. You should just try to establish control. first make sure you don't go below their knees with your control, and then earn the control on the hips.
So you get to the hip first.
Get to the hips, and then they'll be pushing you, but they won't get anywhere with it. They'll be pushing as long as you're not trying to beat their frame. That's, I think, a mistake people do. They try to beat the frame, but the arm's already locked, extended there. So, you know, you will be wasting energy on top if you try to beat the frame. Just let them get tired. Because if you're already on the hips, where else are they going to push you? The arm's already extended. Now they're burning energy.
So your suggestion there is to like wear them down. Just wait until they have to make an adjustment, and then you try to work your way up to like
wear
the cross
them
face.
down, or most times when they're overly pushing you, they will give you an underhook. They'll give you an opportunity for the underhook, or you can go over the arms and eventually get to the head. But I never like try to go right away for the head. I think like people lose a lot of side control because of that. When you go right away for the head, even if you do end up getting the neck control, the person has so much more energy to slide out to bench press you. So I like to wear them out, yes, a little bit, because by the time I get to the head, they're already drained. So now, like, if they try to bench press you, they'll be a lot more tired. And yeah. So establishing control on the hips first, making sure that they're not gonna like. If you just leave their hip free, they'll bridge, they'll hip escape, and all of that. So I try to shut that down first. Then they're mainly just bench pressing you. So if you raise the leg, it's hard to explain.
I know exactly. No, I'm completely with you.
But if I'm like on low side control, I'm on their hips there, and then bench pressing me.
Yeah.
I like to lift one of my legs and kind of put their legs on my lap, like put their legs.
Oh, you shelf them like in wrestling. You shelf their legs.
Yes, I shelf them, and then when they push me, they push me against their own legs.
Yeah, you can't do anything because
so I can't go through their legs. They're gonna be wasting a lot of energy there, and they can no longer hip escape or bridge because their legs are not on the ground.
Yeah.
For you to do both, you need your feet on the ground. So you get drained real quick there, So then from there, I start progressing with underhooks, moving to a higher side control, and then I usually don't even like hug the head. I prefer to double underhook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because now
they can turn.
They cannot bench press you anymore, and then then you can expose your back as well. You can mount, so you have a lot more options.
When you do double underhooks, are you doing are you connecting your hands or?
I can, but I can also just cup their shoulders.
Okay, you just like that.
Yes, and I open my elbows out a little bit too.
Those are interesting because those moves are just like super effective in no-gi because like the double leg or this sort of grip you mentioned, it's just when you can connect your hands, it's so much better in no-gi because in gi you have so many ways that you can close your hand.
Yep.
On any grip, you can close your hand. So you're stuck so much more tightly.
Yep.
But there's nothing in ADCC or in wrestling or in no-gi that beats like connecting your hands around the body because that grip is so rare in no-gi, but it's so common in the gi.
Yep. There's so many grips that you can do no-gi that people are... I seen black belts, like good level black belts, they're clueless because they're so dependent on the fabric,
Yeah. They start trying to grab the wrists and shit.
Yeah.
Like, no, you should.
That's not going to
Can't
work.
do that. That's not going to work, bro.
Yeah. I think, like, no-gi gives you more understanding of, like, body grip. You really need to use your weight precisely. You can't rely on friction between the fabric. You can't rely on, lapel and all of that. So you need to become really good at, like, knowing exactly where to grab, how to grab, and stuff like that. So I think, like, training more in the no-gi lately, opened my mind for, all these different grips that I was so clueless because I was just using the lapel, using the fabric so much,
Yeah, I always say it's the difference is in the gi you're trying to control in the gi you're trying to control the clothes, and in no-gi you're trying to control the body.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, there's definitely some crossover skill there.
That's what I was going to say. I think, like, if you can have the mindset for no-gi, bring it to gi, and using the fabric, you have a lot more, like, better understanding of weight distribution for no-gi. But if you add that with the fabric, I think you become dangerous.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem. You're not moving.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not moving if they know how to control your body like a no-gi person and they have those grips.
Yes.
It's like, you're not going anywhere, dude. Settle
100%.
down. Settle down. All right, man. Well, I know Jake's got to get out of here pretty soon. Let's talk a little bit about your MMA career because I'm a huge MMA fan. Obviously, I work for one and you fought for one. Of course, I know you have the ADCC super fight with Gordon Ryan looming. So what are you prioritizing? Are you looking to get more fights? Are you kind of doing both?
I'm waiting on that one fight that it's not confirmed yet. If that doesn't happen,
Buchecha. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I just got Buchecha. I just
no,
got
definitely not Buchecha. Buchecha is a great friend of mine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And also like, yeah, for me to fight someone like a good friend like that, they would have to pay like
okay.
a money
I
that
didn't know he was your boy.
doesn't have.
I'm just thinking
It's
as
my boy.
a fanboy what I would want to see, right?
It could be a great match, but yeah, no, not Buchecha. But if that doesn't happen, if that match doesn't happen, then I'll go straight to like try to set a date for my MMA fight, and I want to go to a small organization. I want to build my record. I think that's what I should have done. They threw me straight into the Shark Tank, and you know, man, like
0 fights, right? Zero
yeah,
MMA
I had
fights.
0 fights, starting with 1. I think my first opponent had like 14 or 15 victories and 2 losses. So, you know, plus a lot of amateur fights. So I mean, I regret nothing about it. I feel like looking at the bigger picture, like because I want to continue MMA, it was a great thing. I see a lot of people like being so selective about their opponents, and then when they finally get someone that is a tough match, they break. It's just becoming overwhelming to them. So I'm glad, if anything, that I was able to start with, you know, tough, like a Dagestani guy, and I feel like it was very like the results are very subjective depending on the point of view, like what are you analyzing. You know, maybe you could like first match they were saying, oh, you know, here we don't judge by rounds, otherwise you would have won. And then the second match there was no damage done on myself, but I almost broke the guy's arm. He was actually screaming, which I think there is verbal tapping MMA too,
Well,
right?
that should be considered. I mean, me as a judge, I watched that fight. Me as a judge, I would award that as a near finish.
Yes,
Which is the highest scoring criteria.
And you know, I was like running to get my flight. 9 hours after my fight, I was like ready to fight again. I was like sweaty in the airport. Like my face was clean. I was totally fine. And I don't know if he was, it was like he was fine the next day. And I think his arm was pretty swollen. You know, I almost got a heel hook on the first round. I got his back. So I feel like I came close to finish. So I'm like, I was a bit lost, you know, to be honest. I was like, all right, so the first fight you say you don't judge by round.
Yeah.
Otherwise I would have won. And the second fight, again, no damage. But then, I don't know, man. I feel like because the guy was undefeated, they wanted to market the guy. They wanted to build it around him. So it'd be a bummer for him to lose like that. And they just had bought that fighter. That's my theory, because it made no sense. Because if that's the case, then I should have won the first fight. If what they said about the first fight was the case, then I should definitely win the second fight. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out of this event. I'm going to try to like build my experience and get more fights. And then I can go back to get guys on that level. I should be fine. You know, because it was so close, both of the fights. You know, they both went to the distance. And I feel like if I only had a little bit more experience, like maybe 3 more fights.
Yeah, for sure.
I would be comfortable enough to
That's a big stage for your
out,
first fight.
Yeah.
That's a big stage for your first fight. How much of like the time have you spent doing like working on your striking and stuff? I mean, obviously your wrestling is already good enough to compete
It's
with
so
anybody in the
hard,
world.
Lucas, because sometimes it's like I know I'm going to have a grappling match, so I can't just like take out my energy.
taking head kicks.
Yeah,
and
like,
shit.
I'm going to do some Muay Thai now.
Yeah, you know,
After
and then
6
I'll be
hours
lacking.
training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then I'll go to depleted to my jiu-jitsu match, you know, practice. So I feel like every time I have a chance to put some time into my Muay Thai training, I do. I train like, I don't know, like 5 times here at Pineapple MMA since I got here, which is, if you look at 4 months, that's nothing, only 5 times. But every time I have a chance, I'll go and I'll do some striking. Obviously, once I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fight this month for sure, then I'll be training my striking almost every day. But I still wanna do it just enough to be comfortable and clinch, because I'm a grappler. I do this since I'm a kid. So, you know, I just wanna get comfortable enough with my striking to get to the ground. On the previous years though, like from end of 2019 until 2021, I was very consistent with my striking. I was doing it almost every day. And then before that, you know, there was when I was 26 years old, like 2016, I was gonna make my debut then. I trained for a whole year of striking. You know, growing up in Brazil, I did 2 years of Muay Thai. So if you put it all together, I've done like years of striking, but My focus it's always going to be grappling. Even MMA fight, I want to take them down.
Well,
wrestling.
Damian Maia was able to do it.
Yes.
Damian Maia did it. Actually, we met him. He when he fought Ben Askren, he came in Singapore. He came to Singapore. That fight was here.
Is that right?
And you remember that fight when he
Ben Askren, he finished me?
It was the world's worst kickboxing match for most of the fight because they decided not two of the best
I just
grapplers in
saw
the world.
results, yeah.
It was pretty rough.
Nobody went to the ground.
Yeah,
But then
what are you doing?
once Maya got his back, got on top of him, it was done. But he's the only really like pure BJJ guy I think who figured out how to do it right way. If you want to like force the people to grapple, of course Khabib did it, but Khabib did it more with like amazing wrestling, but still strong finishing jiu-jitsu, right? Like his finishes were still strong, and Damian Maia was able to do it. He was never able to win the championship, but he competed at like the highest level.
It still annoys me to this day when was it Woodley's back he had, and the ref called a stop.
And they stopped him. And I was like, "What the fuck, dude? He's got like one hook in already.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to sneak behind him.
If he did it, he would be like the modern day Royce Gracie for sure.
Yeah.
If he would able to win the.
That's the thing is like I think the UFC needs another one of those, like another good like the best representative of jiu-jitsu who can actually consistently get the fight down and finish. Because Khabib was able to do that, but with a slightly different style, right? He focused more on the wrestling.
But Khabib also had way better hands than Damian Maia. I think he was able to set up his takedowns.
He still had good
better,
hands,
and his grappling is not as versatile, and he probably doesn't have as many sub attacks, the bottom game, and the transitions as Damian. But he could take it to the ground a lot easier than Damian does because his wrestling is a lot more versatile. He can clinch wrestling, he can shoot, and he was able to hide his takedowns more because he dropped people his hands many times, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he dropped McGregor, obviously because he was concerned about the takedown. I think that threw him off guard a little bit, and he landed that overhand. But I think, like, his hands were... Having good hands also will help your grappling
For sure.
Because people now they have to cover themselves, then you have a gap to shoot on.
That's the whole thing. If you want to be a good jiu-jitsu fighter that does MMA, you have to build your entire training system around getting inside and getting a connection, right? Like because it's so hard to take people down when they know all you're trying to do is try and take them down. I mean, you have to set it up with your strikes, offensively and defensively, and like he was the best too at getting people against the cage. Like that's what Khabib took down like 85% of his people was just once he got against the fence, his clinching was so good. He was one of those guys that if he ever connected his hands, you were gone. If you ever let Khabib or Islam connect their hands around you,
him at AK, and he's like a brick. Yeah,
you trained with Khabib. How was that?
It was like everything there is like 5 minute rounds because it's based on MMA. So if you grapple, it's 5 minutes. If you strike, it's 5 minutes. MMA, obviously 5 minutes. So we rode for 5 minutes. I pulled guard. I couldn't move him. Couldn't move him, and he wasn't trying to pass. He wasn't trying to get on any positions. He was just trying to stay heavily on top. It was just pure grappling. But I tried to get under him, and at some point I got frustrated. I pushed him, and I stood up. I was like, "I'm going to take him down, bro."
Oh,
but then he's training for that guy. What's his name? Michael. What's his name?
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
So
him up in that fight.
So I stood up, and like DC and the guys, they were like, "Oh, he stood up." He tried to like tease, and then I actually felt like it was pretty cool what he said. He was like, it showed me he's like a very humble person. He's like, brother, listen, my opponent no good at wrestling. You help me more if you play guard. And I was like, okay, man. And then I pull guard and I play guard. But I think it was cool that he was open minded. He's like, I got hurt so many times. He was saying. Because I was trying to be like stubborn and just like be the tough guy, and he's like, you know, he was being smart with his training, you know. So, but his grappling is very solid. Like I couldn't get under him, I couldn't sweep. It was just I only trained him one time as well, you know. So it's hard to, you know, to tell like to have a how you say like a very good understanding of how his grappling game is just by 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I did see he was very solid. Felt like a brick. Guy couldn't move. And like I was trying to move him, he couldn't move him, and
he's a lightweight. Well, kind of.
Yeah. But he was
technically he probably weighs the
at
same
least
as you.
like 195, you know.
Yeah, he weighs the same. Yeah, probably weighs the same as you.
But you know, like I was also training with a grappling for MMA mentality because at that time I was about to get my debut. So it wasn't like I was trying to score or anything. It was
Yeah,
more
you're just
MMA.
training. You're just experimenting,
Training. But
learning.
I did feel like how strong he was, especially for lightweight. He was like crazy strength, So it was nice, because then you see what he's doing there. You're like, okay, yes, I know what these guys are going through. Because I just grapple. That's all I do. So if I'm saying he's strong on the ground, a lot of those MMA fighters, they're not even purple belts,
Yeah.
So they're probably like super overwhelmed with his strength on the ground,
Well, I mean, he fucking destroyed Michael Johnson in that fight.
Yeah.
If that was a training camp for him, I mean, he
Wasn't he
fucking-
talking to him on
Talking
the
shit to
fight?
Dana.
Bro, he was
whilst-
talking
yeah.
mad, and he was beating the shit out of him. Like
Yep.
that wasn't like when he would like ground and pound people. You're
he
like, oh, this is not
Yeah.
nice. This
was-
is vicious.
It was the one where he was apologising to Johnson for having to have to
He's
beat
like-
him up.
he's
Where he's
like,
like,
I'm
I'm sorry.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
You know I deserve
I've gotta
this.
do
You know I deserve
yeah,
this. He's
Yeah, I
talking to
remember
Dana
that.
White while he's just fucking caving in
"What are
his
you
skull. Yeah, what an animal though. But I mean, but the truth is like you're so experienced in jiu-jitsu, and it's the same way for me. I haven't been training as long as you, but I know that within like 30 seconds of touching somebody, if I'm rolling with them, I can get a tell on where they're at.
Yeah.
Right, like a few seconds of touch and a little bit of work, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
this guy's gonna be a fucking problem, or okay, we're
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
here, or like I can't move this person.
Yeah.
Real quick you can tell.
For sure. I mean, it was more me like trying to get under him and looking for attacks. He wasn't really like trying to pass and stuff. But for what he has to worry about, he was doing fine. He has to just sit on top and ground and pound people.
He
So
doesn't
was-
have to pass.
Yeah, he doesn't have to pass. But it was not like I could be just completely careless on bottom. I had to be like aware, because if I was just so relaxed, maybe he could, have tried to pass or something like that. But I could feel his strength. That's what I mean. Like he was very solid, very good base on top.
Everybody says that his strength is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. That's so cool you got to train with him. I mean, he was my favorite fighter for a long time. So the fact that you got to train with him is pretty sweet. Who's another person that you got to train with that was just like, what the fuck is this? Like,
I trained with Islam, very high level grappler
Oh,
too.
yeah? You
I
trained with
think
Islam
he's
also?
like maybe he didn't feel like that brick sort of strength that Habib has, but he's also like pretty up there with his strength. But he's also more versatile. He tries to pass. He plays guard. He's very, very good. A very complete grappler, high level grappler, I would say. I think like I even was always saying that when I was training him. I think Islam could be ADCC champion if he just trained for 6 months, focusing on that. He's that good. He could
That's
be ADCC
crazy.
champion. Yeah, very good.
I just saw an article, I think it was yesterday, and it could totally be a trolling article, but it was talking about how GSP might be open to the idea of like a no-gi match with Khabib.
I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
That would be good. I would
Yeah.
watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, like I think GSP's a legend. But I think grappling wise, I think Habib would smoke him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think GSP would do better in the MMA fight than the grappling fight.
For sure.
I think in the MMA fight, like Khabib would really struggle to take him down. But I think
Yeah.
if they were just grappling, Khabib would get on top. And
Yes, I agree with you.
but still, I would watch.
Still
that.
watch it.
I would watch the shit out of that. All right, dude. I think we can wrap this thing up. My boy Jake's got to go pretty soon. Yuri, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast,
Thank
man.
you guys.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you for having me.
We just did like an hour and a half, and it was like boom.
Yeah.
Just teleporting to the other side. All right, dude. So shout out any like social media or any things you're going to be seminars. Of course, you can be found at Pineapple MMA, just down the
Yes.
road here at Grid Mall.
Yeah, so yeah, guys, I'm teaching every day at Pineapple MMA in Seligi Road, Seligi and Kirk Terrace, those two roads there. There's a mall. That's where I'm teaching every day. Come by, come join our grappling classes. We have Muay Thai there too. Thank you guys. Thank you, Lukas and Jake, for the opportunity to be at your podcast. I hope to visit here again soon.
Oh,
And,
definitely.
You got the open invite, bro. You can be on anytime.
yeah, thank you. I had a great time talking with you guys, and yeah, if you guys want to give me a follow, Yuri Simões da Silva, that's my Instagram. Stay tuned. I'll probably be competing some matches this year, and I hope to give it a good show for everyone.
Luke and Shinya need a judge for their super fight as well.
Yes.
Did Shinya tell you that he's been talking shit?
No,
to me?
what happened?
Because when I moved to Singapore, he was the first person I ever competed against in BJJ. It was
Okay.
This was like 10 years ago when we were both purple belts. And apparently he's been harboring a grudge against me ever since then that I didn't know. And then after the last ADCC, we went to an after party and got drunk together. And then he started talking to me about how he needs to get a rematch, that I owe him another rematch. And
You're like, where did he come from?
And then he's been thinking about it for years. And then he came on the podcast and then said it again. He called me out. I had him on the podcast last week.
Oh, okay.
And then he called me out for a match again on the podcast last week. And I'm like, man, you really want to do this, don't you? All right, let's do it. So actually, I think we're going to do it for charity. Did you ever meet Bashir?
Bashir, I know Bashir from One, right?
Yeah,
I never met him, but I know who he is and stuff. I think I talked to him on social media.
Yeah, so he's one of the executives, the matchmakers at One. He's the one that got me hooked up with them judging. And you mentioned doing a charity, doing me and Shinya's super fight for a charity. And I'm thinking we just get a few other like local people in there and we just send.
Oh, don't worry. Me and Ron have been talking and have plans.
Wait, you and who?
Ron.
You and Ron? Oh, yeah. But let's make it fucking fun, right? We'll do a bunch of podcasts. We'll get fucked up, right? Shinya can talk his shit to me. And so we were going to do it. And Bashir is running this charity. I think it's called for the Shaheen Academy, which is a gym that he opened up in Pakistan. And, you know, he's trying to build up the scene there and everything because he's like Pakistani American. So and he told me he was doing a fundraiser for it. So as soon as I spoke to you about that, I was like, okay, that's a charity that we can donate it to.
Behind.
And we'll do some podcasts and have a good time. And then me and Shinya will try to strangle each other for your guys' entertainment.
I'll watch that one for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. And I told him if he beats me, then he owes me another rematch anyway.
That's going to be in Singapore, right?
Yeah, we'll do it in Singapore.
I'll probably go there, man.
Go, dude. Let's go. Come on.
You can do comms with me and Ron.
Yeah, for sure. That would be fun.
Oh, I also, Yuri, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, my phone is the camera right now. There's a Muay Thai event coming up in, I think it's like the end of next month. Pineapple apparently is involved with it somehow. I'm doing the commentary for it along with somebody else. I don't know if you want to go or something.
I'll be down.
Go watch some fights together.
Yeah,
something like that. If you want to hang out, let me know.
Definitely. If I'm here, I'll go.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you're going to be here because Jake, you're also doing.
Yeah. I'll help produce. I think.
Yeah. So I'll give you guys all the details on that later. We're going to get some of the fighters on the podcast and who are going to fight in the event. It's Singapore versus Malaysia. And me and Alvanong are going to do the commentary. And then Major's also going to be involved in the commentary. But he just fought and won yesterday.
Yes.
Congrats to Major, 41 years old. Have you ever met Major?
No, never.
He's a local 41. American black belt. He fought and won. And 41, came out of retirement and just fought yesterday. He's one of my oldest friends in Singapore. He's been on the podcast a bunch of times.
Looking shredded as well.
Shredded, dude. He told me he lost 15 kilos over the last 4 or 5 months or something like that. So, we'll get Major on the podcast soon. And another alum of the podcast, Kai Shong, fighting in the road to UFC pretty soon. That's his student. So I'll get Kai Shong and Major on the podcast soon. I'll give you guys more updates about the Muay Thai event. Maybe we can go if you're here. Yep. And Jake, anything else? Did we cover everything, dude?
No, I think that's everything.
All right, everybody. Yuri, you're a fucking legend, dude. Thank you so much for doing the podcast. I really appreciate having you here. I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe. This is the Stronghold Podcast, and we will see you next time.